My name's Ima Miah and I'm the Chief Executive of the Asian Resource Centre of Croydon. We are an infrastructure organisation that's been delivering services to Croydon for 20 years now. We also have a big service delivery programme around health and wellbeing, young people in parenting, digital and financial inclusion and domestic abuse and sexual violence. I'm delighted to be able to talk today about our experience of the National Lotteries Community Fund. We already had an established partnership of 15 organisations that were delivering for the Council's Community Fund, and so we were thinking about the next steps. After 2 years of delivery, 1 year left. What were we to do to continue this fantastic project that was delivering incredible outcomes? We were seeing over 10,000 people a year. So the thinking behind this project for us really was to work on the basis of an established partnership and look at a piece of funding that would appreciate the work that had been done, but also give us the opportunity to develop on areas that we'd learned that we could do better, or we could do more, or we hadn't done enough. So really, when we were searching for funding, it came to us, in fact, from another Meet the Funder event, that Croydon organisations were not getting as much reaching communities or other National Lottery funding as much as they could be. So there was almost an invitation, we felt, that we had to look at this funding and see if there was something we could apply to. So we looked at several different streams, and what really came out to us for this was the word partnerships. And since it was a partnership bid we were planning to write, it really fit in and resonated with the sort of core values that our partnership had already agreed. We found that this particular piece of funding was for organisations to work together with a shared set of goals to help their community thrive, and that's exactly what we were doing. So we felt very excited about applying to this funding, but we, in a way, didn't know where to start, so we assumed it was going to be lengthy applications and not enough contact with the funding manager, with quite a difficult process. But I would say, although it was lengthy, it was difficult at times. In fact, it was a pleasant surprise at how much hand-holding and how much we were walked through the process by the National Lottery funding officers. What really attracted me to this was that we could submit an idea and then develop that idea. So it was almost working with the funder organically throughout the development stage of the funding, rather than having worked everything out and then applying for a piece of funding. I felt as if the funder was working with us to develop our idea and in a way was a partner within our application. The other aspect that really resonated with us was the words encouraging generous leadership. Now, we felt that this really connected with the kind of partnership that we were working in, and we really understood generous leadership to be about the strength of our relationships and our approach to working in partnership. We looked at what it meant and how we could apply generous leadership to our actual partnership approach. And the things we felt that really worked for us were that it was about developing the development and success of the ecosystem rather than purely the organisation. It was about a willingness to share responsibility and power to achieve a common good. and it was about the openness with which we share experience, knowledge and skills. So once we'd established our priorities and looked at the priorities of the National Lottery, and once we'd found a funding stream that matched our priorities, we decided to embark on what was going to be almost a year-long journey to writing, developing our bid and our partnership, our work, and then eventually being successful in obtaining that funding. Now, when we started writing the funding application, it started off in quite a unique way. We were expecting to do an application of some sort, but actually it was a lot more conversational. We got in touch with our funding officer, and she had a chat with me over the phone and said, "What's your idea?" So I kind of had just a normal conversation with her, and she said, "Would you like to put your idea on a piece of paper? I'll give you some guiding questions, and then maybe we'll take it further and see where we can go from there." So that gave me a hint that she may be interested in what we're doing, and I felt she took a real interest in our work and learning more about us before considering whether we would be a good match for the National Lottery or not. So then we got given a set of questions to answer, and it wasn't an application form. It was just an email with a set of questions, which was quite unique for me because I was used to filling in application forms, and so it felt like, oh, this is great because this feels like it's going to be a piece that we're developing together, and I will get feedback as I go along to be able to improve on this. So as we went along answering these questions, we did get a lot of back and forth, but it was conversational. It was through email, and it felt like a guided process. So we were told that it was going to go to a local panel to first make an initial decision as to whether the lottery actually were interested in our idea. We felt at that stage that we developed a really comprehensive application for the panel. Subsequently, it came back with another set of questions that actually made me think afterwards that perhaps I could have given more detail around particular areas. I could have thought more about the delivery model, and it helped me to really understand how the project would work. And in a way, it was learning curve for all of us, and it certainly made our funding officer a lot more familiar with the staff team, the organisation, the partnership, and the actual project that we wanted to do. Now, the approach was quite different from what we'd applied to initially when we applied several years back to reaching communities, and we'd failed on that particular round. It was quite laborious. It was very application focused, but this time round we found the experience was quite different. It was a lot more sort of talking to people. It was a lot more guided. It was the whole process felt much more user-friendly, and I would say if you were going to apply for a big piece of funding, then certainly this model the funder is using is very useful for you to learn about your own project and how the delivery would look like in the end. So this application has taken us almost 8 months to develop, from the initiation phase to actually now that we're actually delivering the project. As you can imagine, in between all of this, there were several changes. For example, some of the initial partners we took on later on, we couldn't work with them for various reasons. So there were several things that changed, and all I did was I picked up the phone and I said to our funding officer, something's changed. and I need to build it in. They accommodated it straight away. They said the whole process was about learning, it was about developing. So if they were, as long as we could justify, as long as we could explain what the change was, why that change was needed, and how that change would benefit going forward, I felt that the lottery were very accommodating of the changes. So the moment of truth for us, really, I felt was a meeting where our funding officer came to our partnership meeting. So when the funding officer came along, she observed and she took part also within the meeting, where she needed clarification on certain things, or she needed, I felt, a little bit of confidence in what we were saying, that we knew how we were going to implement that. And the interesting thing was, when we pitched this as a continuation project, it worked really well. Traditionally, I found it difficult to apply for continuation projects that work really well, because sometimes the funder just wants innovation, and the projects that work really well sometimes have to be changed to meet this new innovative spec of the funders. But this time the funder really appreciated this was a model that worked. When it came to the monitoring and evaluation part of the project, I was delighted to see that the lottery had taken a much more of a light touch approach. It's about telling a story. It's about mapping the journey of the clients, of the community, of the partnership, of our organisation, and really shouting out about the things that work and really learning lessons from the things that we understand are not working. I feel that other funding streams, like the Awards for All, could probably benefit from that light touch approach. I feel that other funders could really benefit from learning what the Big Lottery is doing, their approach to all of this, and the way that they're nurturing the project development of these applications. My biggest piece of advice would be persevere and believe in the work that you're doing, and really think about the model that you're trying to deliver and what you want at the end. I would like to just say thank you, firstly, to the National Lottery for giving us this money. It will enable us to do some excellent work with the community. It will help us to build on a project that we've know that's worked well for the last 3 years. It will help smaller organisations that we're working with to grow and be able to do what they do best, which is working with the community. It will help us to develop our partnership and our generous leadership model, which we've always taken so much pride in having. And it will also help the community to get a project that's well thought through, and a project that will hopefully give access to people who ordinarily don't have access or are not engaged with mainstream services. I would also like to say thank you to our funding officer, who's really worked hard herself in making sure that things are as smooth as they can be for us, and actually really helped us and our partnership to be equipped to deal with the challenges of delivering such a big project. She also made sure she had enough information to go back to the funding panel and satisfy them enough for them to say the big final yes. And I'd like to thank every person who has helped for this to happen, and the Croydon Community Development Partnership is one to watch out for. Thank you.